Joining me now is New York Republican Congressman Mike Lawler. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kristen.
So let's start with the very latest from the Hill. You were just in the House Republican conference meeting. We heard someone in the room said, and I'm going to quote this, not even Jesus himself could get to 217. So given that, from everything you've heard, do you think there is a path to get Steve Scalise or, frankly, anyone the gavel at this point?
Look, there's going to have to be. We were elected to serve as a House Republican majority, to serve as a check and balance on the Biden administration. The American people expect us to govern. I won a district that Joe Biden won by 10 points that has 70,000 more Democrats than Republicans because I talked about the issues that mattered to people, from crime and public safety to the border crisis to spending and taxes. And that's what the American people want us to get back to work on. And so everybody's going to have to put their big boy pants on and, really put aside their personal petty grievances and elect a speaker, whether it's Steve Scalise or someone else, that can get to 217 and we can get back to the work of the American people.
Do you think Steve Scalise can get to 217? I mean, what's your best guess at this point about who actually makes it to 217?
Look, I think Leader Scalise is a good man. I think he is someone who has obviously been in the leadership of our party for a number of years. People know him. They know him well. I think, obviously, he got a majority of the vote yesterday, and I think people want to rally behind him. But there is definitely a number of folks who are not supporting him at this point. And so, I think he really, we had a long meeting today. I know he's meeting with a few folks soon to continue these discussions. But ultimately, we're going to have to make a decision. Either you have 217 or you don't. And if you don't, then obviously we need to go back to the drawing board and get another candidate.
What would your plan B be, and would you support giving the Speaker pro tem, McHenry, more power so that you can actually get back to the work of trying to pass some bills?
Look, I think there's some fine folks who, if this doesn't work, may step forward. But, certainly if we can't resolve this in the next 24, 48 hours, I think we need to look at giving the Speaker pro tem more authority so that he can conduct the business of the House while the conference works out the details. But again, this is why this never should have happened. 8 Republicans teamed up with 208 Democrats to remove a duly elected speaker without cause. Now, this was done a few days before the terrorist attack in Israel. But given the dire situation, I hope people recognize this was a big mistake. And whatever perceived personal or political gain there was for the 8 individuals on the Republican side and the 208 Democrats who teamed up on this, it was a colossal mistake to do this. And now we're dealing with the consequences of a paralyzed House while we try to elect a new speaker.
You talk about the weight that is hanging over you, given what is happening in Israel. What is the mood right now in the conference? I know you all are going to meet again tonight.
Look, last week I talked about, Festivus and airing of the grievances. It's far beyond Festivus. I think people are angry, they're disgusted, they're frustrated, and really disillusioned at the moment. And we need to come together. We need to find a path forward. And it really goes beyond leadership. To me, this is about 221 folks being able to work as a team, as a conference, as a majority that the American people elected. We have to find a path forward on it.
And Congressman, because you are so determined to have a speaker in place, do you know who your plan B would be? A Tom Cole, for example, who should step up if it's not going to be Steve Scalise? Jim Jordan?
Look, I think that's going to have to be the discussion if Steve cannot get to 217.
Who's your pick? Who's your pick for a plan B?
I have a few thoughts on it. I'm not going to share it at the moment. But look, I think Steve deserves the space to try and get to 217. And if he can't, then we need to move ahead. And I think he's got to make that decision soon. Based on these conversations.
I want to ask you just big picture, because this is the second time that your conference has struggled to pick a speaker, obviously, in about 9 months. At some point, do you worry that it could cost Republicans the majority in the House, that it sends a message that you can't govern?
Well, as I said last week, I think it was the single most destructive thing I've ever seen in politics. I started as an intern for John McCain back in 2008, and I've been around politics for 15 years. This was destructive, and it was unnecessary, and it was unwarranted. And I think, obviously, it torpedoed the work that we were doing as a majority on behalf of the American people. At the end of the day, it's not about me. It's not about the conference. It's about the American people. They elected a House Republican majority for a reason. One-party rule does not work. You need checks and balances. You need to be able to push back on the $5 trillion in reckless new spending under the Biden administration. The porous southern border, where 6 million migrants have crossed, many of them illegally. Fentanyl pouring into our communities, killing 70,000 Americans last year. These are real crises, and we have a responsibility to govern, to lead, and to put our egos aside and focus on the task at hand. And I think, it's obviously going to come to a head. We're going to elect a speaker, but, it's certainly been a very frustrating week.
And you've talked about the urgency because of the war in Israel. I do want to ask you about some comments by former President Trump, who called Hezbollah, quote, smart for launching their attack at this very moment. He's, of course, also called North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, and Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin, smart as well. What do you make of that kind of language? Do you think it's disqualifying?
Look, to me, the state of Israel is our greatest ally and friend. They are the only democracy in the Middle East. They are a beacon of hope. And so much work has been done over 75 years to strengthen that relationship and to ensure Israel's right to exist. Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, the greatest state sponsor of terror, these are states and entities that are focused on wiping Israel off the face of the earth. That is neither smart nor good. And we need to understand this is a fight of good versus evil, right versus wrong. We stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel, and I will never waver in my support for Israel. We must hold Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and any other bad actors that think this is the moment to strike accountable.
Congressman Mike Lawler, we will leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on what is a very busy day for you. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.